Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. It's Roshan M Salih here in London and Robert Carter over there in Beirut. Brothers and sisters, we've decided to go live 1 hour prior to our intended and advertised time at 7:30 because unprecedented events are taking place. Just an hour ago or so, Iran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles towards Israel, and some of them have reached their intended target, I believe. And also there has been a killing of about 5 Israelis, I believe, in Tel Aviv. Let's have a quick look at some of the footage that's been coming out before I go to Robert in Beirut for his reaction. This is footage of Iranian TV showing the missiles, the barrage of missiles taken off, I believe, from Iran to Israel. Or I'm not sure, it might be missiles landing in Israel, flying over Israeli water airspace.
Okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here. They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside.
So that, I'll play it again. Basically, before, when Iran launched missiles at Israel, it choreographed it, it telegraphed it. This seems to be a very impromptu attack without warning, and some of the missiles look like they've got through. Let's watch that again.
Okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here. They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside.
And the next video I have, and I'll upload more videos as we go along tonight, is the terror and the panic that's obvious in Israel at this moment.
נפילות אחי, נפילות של החיים בנבטים. נפילות בנבטים אחי. נפילות קשות בנבטים, שומע? וואו, 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 וואו. וואו! הכל נופל לנבטים, אני אומר לך, מתקפה אחת החזקות. אימא'לה, זהו, למקרה.
So I'm going to watch that again just because these are amazing scenes, but just to describe it, people are joining all the time. Brothers and sisters, this is an impromptu live, no preparation. Robert and I are just going to be reacting to the news. Inshallah, Dilly will come on a little bit later as well. We're just going to be literally reacting to the news as it happens. Please share this link with everybody you can, friends and family. Let's get the numbers up. We have about 400 people watching. Inshallah, let's get to 1,000, 2,000, etc., etc. Just describing that video again. So this is basically Israeli citizens looking at Iranian missiles being rained down on Israeli cities, I believe. This one, I think, is in Tel Aviv, and looking like they have reached their target. So Iron Dome has not intercepted these Iranian missiles.
נפילות אחי, נפילות של החיים בנבטים. נפילות בנבטים אחי. נפילות קשות בנבטים, שומע? וואו, 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 וואו. וואו! הכל נופל לנבטים, אני אומר לך, מתקפה אחת החזקות. אימא'לה, זהו, למקרה.
So brothers and sisters, I'm going to go to your comments now as well. This is not a fundraiser. This is a news live, but I guarantee that if you want to support our work and you want to do a super chat to help us to make more of this kind of content, then I guarantee that Robert and I will respond to your question. Robert, what's it like in Beirut? What's the atmosphere like there?
Well, it's very tense. Assalamu alaikum, first of all. Let me get that out of the way, of course. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's very tense. I think people are, of course, anticipating what Israel might do next. There has been some gunshots in the distance that I can hear, and that's probably supporters of Iran, supporters of the Iran-backed group Hezbollah, which are celebrating the news of Iran's attack on Israel. But ultimately, the situation on the ground here is incredibly tense. prior to these scenes. Now I think people are going to be fearful of what Israel's going to do in retaliation. So ordinary civilians are probably going to remain indoors. They're also they've shut their businesses down already. It's late now, but normally Beirut's quite busy. It's hustle and bustle. People tend to come out and enjoy the night, but now the streets are pretty much empty. There are a lot of refugees and a lot of displaced people actually sleeping rough on the streets. So of course, those people will probably be very anxious about their safety and watching the news intently to see how the night develops.
I was watching Al Jazeera just before we came on air, and the correspondent in Beirut said there was lots of gunfire, celebratory gunfire. Have you heard any of that?
Yes, I can hear some gunfire. Where I am, it's a little bit away from the Shia areas. I can normally see the southern suburbs being bombed from where I am if I go to the rooftops. But I don't get to hear much of the action. However, despite where I am, I have heard gunshots ringing out. So yes, absolutely. There are some jubilant scenes here as supporters of Iran, supporters of Iran's group here, Hezbollah, are celebrating the news of this attack. There's no doubt about that. But I think obviously many people are anxious about if there'll be an Israeli counterattack to that. Israel's regime forces have actually clarified that they intend to continue their military operation in South Lebanon tonight. That was informed to the press prior to the Iranian attack being started. So whether they'll continue that, I suppose they probably will. But Lebanon is certainly on the front lines here and is likely to see some action tonight as well, I dare say, given the fact that Israel has intensely attacked Lebanon for well over a week now, including Beirut.
Yeah, in the comments, there's quite a lot of skepticism. I think people haven't perhaps caught up with the news. A lot of people saying this is another fake attack. Early indications seem that this is a much larger attack than the one that we saw in April. And it seems as though some of the missiles, or a lot of them, have actually got through this time and have hit their targets. That's just me speaking from early kind of indications of what I see. Is that what you're seeing as well, Robert?
Yes, I obviously I'm not close enough to Israel to see any of that action, but certainly I've been watching journalists who I know are there, and they're basically panicking as missiles come raining down. There's a flood of footage going on social media now, and it appears to show many angles and different footage from different locations in Israel showing missiles landing on targets, quite a large number of them as well. Where they've hit, did they hit a particular target or just an open field? We don't know at this stage, but certainly it looks like many of the Iranian missiles got through and have landed. We don't know exactly how many missiles have been launched. Israel is claiming that about 100 Iranian missiles have entered Israeli airspace, and obviously some of them would have been intercepted. We can even see from the footage some flashes in the sky, and then other flashes actually not disappearing in the sky and actually making it to ground. But according to some reports here locally in Lebanon, up to 200 to 300 Iranian missiles may be launched throughout the night. So, of course, this attack could be in its early stages. It may not have ended yet, but there are other things happening tonight as well, which I'm sure we'll discuss, including reports and footage to back it up of an apparent mass shooting incident also taking place in Tel Aviv, apparently.
Do you know any more details about that, Robert? Because I was kind of out driving when that happened, so I didn't really catch it.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, footage going viral online showing what appears to be Israelis lying on the ground, shot. Bullet fire is raining out in Tel Aviv. And according to reports, it's even being reported in Israeli media now as well, there was a mass shooting incident. At least 4 people have been killed from what I have read, and many others injured, at least up to 9 injured, several severely injured. I'm not 100% sure who was responsible for that. It could be a Palestinian gunman, we don't know. But apparently whoever was behind the shooting has been apprehended by the authorities. I'm not 100% sure if he was killed or not, but there has been images allegedly of the gunman going viral online. And there's also been a lot of footage of the incident going viral online. Blood on the floor, bodies on the floor. It's a proper shooting incident. There's no other way to describe it, quite frankly. We'll have to wait and see how that develops. But Israel is under attack. There's also alleged reports claiming that rocket fire has been coming from Lebanon as well, targeting sites in Israel. So Israel is under a major attack here. The question is, how will Israel receive this attack? Could this be a declaration of war from Israel's perspective via Iran? Could Israel and Iran now be in a full-blown war? Is that how Israel will respond? Will Israel attack Iran directly? Will they lash out at Lebanon and target more sites here? These are big questions. And would Iran respond again to that? We have yet to see. But certainly, we're now facing a regional war here. It's not just talk. It's not just might be on the horizon. This is a region-wide war with missiles flying over other countries in order to hit their destination.
Brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, the numbers are going up. We have about 900 people watching live now, a bit less than that. Let's get to over 1,000 in the next few minutes, inshallah. Share this link with friends and family. You're not going to see this elsewhere. You're going to see, the mainstream media supporting the Zionists. You're going to see biased opinions elsewhere, but this is one of the only channels where you will see the Muslim point of view. So, inshallah, please share this link with friends and families. We have started a little bit earlier than expected. Let me bring you up to date with the news, brothers and sisters, if you're just joining. So Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it's fired dozens, I think hundreds actually, of ballistic missiles. It's fired hundreds of missiles, but dozens of ballistic missiles at Israel in response to the killing of people in Gaza and Lebanon, as well as the Hamas and Hezbollah leaders, Ismail Haniyeh and Hassan Nasrallah. The IRGC says Israel will face crushing attacks if it responds to these Iranian attacks tonight. Scrolling down a newsfeed here. So the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, condemns the escalation of the conflict. No one really cares what he has to say. The UN is completely useless, as we know. Israel has said it's prepared to defend and retaliate. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari just had a televised address. He said the Israeli military is fully prepared to defend and retaliate to the Iranian attack, stressing that it would be in a timely manner. So that basically answers your question, Robert, if you can hear me, that Israel has vowed to retaliate, and very quickly. And obviously we know that Netanyahu's wanted to take out Iran's nuclear facilities. So I wonder if that might be the first kind of target for him. What do you reckon?
Yeah, quite possibly. Israel is a rogue regime. It's going absolutely mental right now, and it's attacking anyone and everyone. And they have issued veiled threats to Iran already. And now Iran has hit them. They're now saying, well, we're going to respond to this. And Iran has told them already, if you respond, then we will respond even worse than what we're doing right now. Apparently, there is talk of another round of Iranian missiles that may be fired tonight. That's what's being speculated in media circles here locally. We'll have to wait and see. So there could be another barrage of Iranian missiles due tonight. How Israel will respond, typically they like to lash out not just at the one who is attacking them, but perhaps others as well, their allies. So there's a strong possibility that Lebanon will be hit tonight, possibly Beirut. It could happen at any moment. They've been hitting Beirut almost every single night, if not every day already. And I've witnessed that. I've been hearing it, some pretty close to me, in fact. So obviously there could be action right behind us tonight. So do stay tuned. Obviously, there is talk of the ongoing military operation in South Lebanon, which includes Israeli troops entering into Lebanese territory. Very quickly, Roshan, there's a very interesting bit of confusion there. There's like mind games going on. Last night, it was being widely reported that Israel's military operation, its ground offensive into Lebanon, was underway, and that was being reported by everyone in the English language media. Today, a statement was released by Hezbollah claiming that no Israeli troops had entered Lebanese territory. They had attacked Lebanese territory with artillery and strikes, but they hadn't actually entered, which is very confusing because Israel is adamant that it started its military ground offensive. So we're kind of getting a war of news. Who's delivering fake news? We don't know. So there's a lot of confusion here in Lebanon. Mind games, psychological warfare is also playing out. But obviously, earlier on in the week, the same group vowed that they are ready. They are ready for the scenario if Israel does invade South Lebanon. They're ready. They're prepared. They're dug in, and it will be a bloody affair. So if Israel does commit to a ground offensive in Lebanon, then that could be a very bloody affair, very dangerous situation, which could see South Lebanon turned into basically another Gaza, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the reports from 15 minutes ago. Is that Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, says 2 people have been lightly wounded in Tel Aviv after the Iranian missile attack. That's just so far. Others are wounded. Millions are making their way through to a shelter. The death toll has risen in the Tel Aviv shooting. The Israeli media is putting the figure at 8 dead. So 8 Israelis have been killed in a shooting incident in Tel Aviv. Biden has ordered the US military to shoot down Iranian missiles. So this is interesting, isn't it? Because last time this happened, Iran choreographed, they telegraphed it, didn't they? And they gave the Americans and the British and the French and the Jordanians enough time to shoot down their own missiles. This time, it doesn't look like that's happened. But now, Biden has basically ordered the Americans to shoot down any further Iranian missiles. So the US has already intervened. The US has said it, just give me about 30 seconds more, Robert, just to go through the news, and then I'll let you come back in. The US has said that
I'm going to grab some water, Roshan, while you do that. I'll be very quick.
So the US says that its troops in the region did not come under attack. Israel has asked its citizens to shelter in place, so not to move to shelters, but to stay in their own shelters. To repeat, the IRGC, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, has said that this is revenge for the killing of Nasrallah and Haniya and the slaughter of Palestinians and Lebanese by Israel. The Iranian mission to the UN has said that its response to Israel has been duly carried out. So it says that it's suggesting here that this missile attack may have concluded already. And that they, so I'll read this out to you, brothers and sisters. So this is the Iranian mission to the UN. Iran's legal, rational, and legitimate response to the terrorist attacks of the Zionist regime, which involved targeting Iranian nationals and interests and infringing upon the national sovereignty of the Islamic Republic of Iran, has been duly carried out. So that insinuates that there will be no more missiles unless Israel responds. Should the Zionist regime dare to respond or commit further acts of malevolence, a subsequent and crushing response will ensue. Regional states and the Zionist supporters are advised to part ways with the regime. So that is the Iranian mission to the United Nations statement. Come in, Robert.
Yeah, so I can read through some headlines as well. Apparently, according to Iranian state TV, 80% of the missiles launched hit Israel. That's obviously the Iranian perspective. Military correspondent of the Israeli-based Hebrew Channel 13 says that Iran has fired its missiles at military bases, but did not direct them at the civilian population. That's an interesting thing for Israeli media to admit to at this stage. We've also got scenes of Palestinians celebrating, including Palestinians in Gaza. They're celebrating the incident. There's footage of Arabs living in Jordan filming the missiles flying over their airspace. That, of course, will upset the Jordanian king, because he, of course, has said that he's worried about that. He doesn't want his airspace used for attacks, but obviously he has limited power, to say the least, to do anything. Let's see. There is apparently Tel Aviv University has been hit. Over
So
1,000 sirens across the country have been sounding out, as of course targets may even include areas outside of Tel Aviv as well.
yeah, what you just said there, because you said that they'd only gone for military bases, but you said Tel Aviv University has been hit as well.
That's conflicting reports. We'll obviously have to wait and see what's been verified. People are claiming all sorts of things. And I think we know from experience, Roshan, that in these types of nights of action, nights of conflict, you know, sometimes fake news works its way into legitimate headlines. So obviously we'll have to wait and see what the morning brings. But certainly, I mean, we've seen huge amounts of evidence that many of these missiles have hit. I've seen at least 10 separate clips from different sources from inside occupied Palestine, clearly showing explosions on the ground. This is an unprecedented attack by Iran on Israel. It's a huge attack, something which many people suspected might not even happen at all. I've read as well, apparently the leader of Iran, Khamenei, the Ayatollah Khamenei, may address Friday prayers this week. Now, that is a rarity, and I suppose there's a lot of meaning behind that. I think that's usually done when they're at sort of war. He usually, traditionally, when he appears for Friday prayers, would hold an AK-47. It's quite a revolutionary tradition within Iran. And I mean, if the leader's doing it, that's not his usual duty. If he's doing it, he has something very meaningful he wants to say, a strong message. But also, I think what's Israel's response going to be? You mentioned that they might target nuclear facilities inside Iran. There are many people who fear or speculate that Israel might actually attempt to take out some senior Iranian leadership, possibly even Ayatollah Khamenei himself.
That's why I was saying.
I have no idea what you think about that, Roshan.
That's why I was surprised at what you said there, that he was going to address Friday prayers in Tehran, because it's obvious.
Check that. I'm going to check that to see, but I definitely read that somewhere. So let me just verify that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's obvious that Iran has been infiltrated at the highest levels, whether by spies or technology, communications. So it wouldn't surprise me if Israel had the ability to take out Ayatollah Khamenei. And I don't think they would have any compunction in doing that.
Yes,
regime.
It's well reported in Iranian media. The leader is to perform this week's Friday prayers. That was released today, a few hours ago. According to, I think it's pronounced Meher. It's an Iranian state
news agency. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. They're saying
because you know, I wouldn't put it past the Israelis. They like, I assume they would know where that Friday prayer meeting would be taking place. They'll just bomb the whole meeting, and they'll kill thousands of people just to get at Ayatollah Khamenei. That's what they'll do. You know, they've already proved that. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Iran is attacking military bases, whereas Israel is attacking residential buildings in Lebanon and killing maybe up to 1,000 people when it killed Hassan Nasrallah, and not blinking an eye or having any conscience while doing so. Yeah.
It looks it looks like more missiles might be coming. Yes, live scenes on Sky News. There are more explosions in the sky over Tel Aviv. So the attack's not over. Who knows where that's coming from? We'll have to wait and see what the headlines hold. But if you watch some of the news reports from people live in Tel Aviv, there have been more.
Seems to have lost Robert there for a minute, but we'll just go through some of the comments. So, brothers and sisters, you know, you keep us updated as well, because we're checking our mobile phones and the news feeds. It'll be helpful if you can update us as well, and then inshallah we can react to what's happening. If Israel retaliates, Iran said it will hit back even harder. This attack consisted of 200 ballistic missiles. 200. Iran has stockpiles of hundreds of thousands of missiles. They could level all of Israel. I'm going to actually remove Robert from the feed and get him back, because he seems to have lost connection there. That might happen a few times because his connection's a bit dodgy there in Beirut. As you can imagine, everyone's connection isn't great over there, the country at war. Let me find some new comments to put up, inshallah, brothers and sisters. This is going to be a bit ropey, this live. We haven't prepared for it. We're just literally reacting to events as they happen. Robert, come back. I'm going to kick him from the studio, and then he should know to rejoin, inshallah. And we're going to get some other guests on, brothers and sisters, as well, because myself and Robert can't possibly keep talking for this long. Inshallah, Dilly will join us and others as well throughout the course of the next hour or so. We may even stay longer than that. Okay, let me message Robert. Bear with me, brothers and sisters. There's some rumors that Netanyahu, Robert's back now. There are some rumors that Netanyahu is being lifted out of Israel, but I think there's a lot of rumors going to circulate tonight, to be honest. So that isn't confirmed information. But that he's being lifted to a safe place.
Yeah, I'm just going to check that now. Netanyahu rides waves. Israel stands by you. Yes, I'm not seeing anything in the headlines right now. But yeah, interestingly, there is the IDF regime forces have upped the number of missiles that they're claiming has been thrown at
Okay, Robert's having problems again. Inshallah, this won't persist too long. Okay. I'm just going to kick him from the studio again, and he'll get the message to rejoin. Okay, so looking at the news feeds again, brothers and sisters, let me read you some of the latest news. And I'm going to go to Iranian TV and see what they're saying. And then I'll go to Israeli TV and get their point of view, and then maybe a few others as well. So Iranian TV are showing Palestinians in the Jabalia refugee camp jumping for joy at the Iranian missiles hitting Israel. They've long urged Iran to join the front directly, but Iran has hesitated to do that because it wants its allies to do it instead. Iran have this kind of forward defense ideology where they don't want to fight wars on their own soil. Since the 1980s, where there was that devastating Iran-Iraq war, and Iraq lost about 500,000 people, so did Iran. Since then, Iran has had this philosophy that if it's going to fight its enemies, it will fight them abroad, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Yemen, etc., but not in Iran. But it looks like that is all going to change, brothers and sisters, because I'm pretty sure that this Iranian attack is going to lead to an Israeli reaction. Robert is there now. Just butt in at any time you want to, Robert. I'm just going through the Iranian newsfeed actually at the moment. So Iranian TV cock a hoop at what's happening, boasting about missiles flying overhead, hitting Israeli targets. They're calling this self-defense. So hedging their bets at the same time, because obviously they probably fear a massive Israeli and even possibly US reaction. So obviously celebrations taking place all across the occupied territories. These are areas that have felt the strong arm of Israel, the oppression, the occupation, the damage, death and destruction that Israel has inflicted upon Gaza, upon the West Bank, upon Lebanon, even on the Palestinians, the Muslim Palestinians that are living inside Israel or inside the 1948 areas. And they're celebrating hard tonight. Some relief from their point of view. Okay, I'm going to look at what Israeli TV has got to say. Robert, unfortunately, is really struggling tonight with his internet connection. which we might have to sort out because I can't do this all on my own. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Damien. It might help if Robert turns his camera off, and at least if we can hear him, that might be something. We don't have to necessarily see his face. I'm going to message him that now. Okay, he's back.
Stop camera.
Robert, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it might help if you turn your camera off. Unfortunately, everyone wants to see your pretty face, but it looks like it might work better.
Yes, fine. Okay, I'll leave it like that for the time being.
Yeah. So let's just go with audio. Let's just go with audio, Robert, for the time being. Thank you, Damien, for that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm interested what the comments say.
Okay, I don't think there'll be a full-on war. Israel and Iran are separated by two countries. You reckon this is going to be a full-on war? Robert?
It looks really, really bad. No one's de-escalating at the moment. I think Netanyahu's strategy has been to escalate, to de-escalate, and now it's coming back to bite him on the backside. I think, you know, the Israelis, I think they're headed by one of the most radical extremist Zionist regimes that they have ever had. And obviously that is a pretty big statement to say when you think that there are, you know, Netanyahu's predecessors were behind the Nakba and behind the killings in the Arab-Israeli wars, and so on and so forth. So many crimes have been committed, but everyone believes that this regime in Tel Aviv is the most extremist, the most radical, the most right-wing, the most fascistic. So obviously it seems like the sky is the limit. It's a bit like, I suppose, if the war has started, then you've got your excuse. You may as well, seeing as you're being hit, seeing as Netanyahu's reputation faces, it's in the gutter, seeing as he faces, you know, severe pressure and potential career damage from his genocide, his many crimes, he may as well go all out. You know, I mean, the bottom goal here for Israel and for Zionists is to conquest Arab lands, probably to create a greater Israel in the long term. So I think probably these psychopaths that rule this regime, they're probably prepared, if they're going to go down, they may as well use that opportunity to commit as many massacres. Why would you go and face punishment for one massacre when you may as well just commit another 1,000 massacres, because it's all going to be the same ultimately? Israel gets treated very softly by the West. They usually have a lot of political cover as well. So I think now that the war is here, the war we were all expecting to happen one day has arrived, I think perhaps Israel's just going to go for it. They might attack Iran. They might try and drag the US in. They might just try and not just mow the lawn in Gaza, as the term goes. They might try mowing that lawn in Lebanon, perhaps Yemen, and possibly trying to smash Iran as well while they have the chance. But obviously, now that Iran has finally decided, well, do you know what, we might actually step in here and assist our proxies in the region, obviously the potential for Israel to get badly hit now is on the table. So it's a hard one to predict. It looks like total war to me.
Okay, I'm gonna read out the latest news that I'm getting. They've closed Lebanese airspace for a few hours. Now, Robert, you're due to fly back to the UK tomorrow, aren't you? I wonder if they're gonna open the airspace again for you.
Yes, we have yet to see. Normally, there's a lull in the fighting after the night. So in the early hours of the morning and in the early part of the day, the fighting tends to calm down. Flights have been going from Beirut airport till quite late in the evening. I think trying to get as many people out as possible. So I think perhaps they've cancelled some flights this evening, which were meant to go, and obviously have closed the airspace for obvious reasons. They may reopen it by tomorrow in order to resume flights. There is a UK flight that's been prepared. That was meant for tomorrow afternoon. So I assume because that one has political backing from Britain, in order to get British nationals out and a sense of urgency about that, perhaps Beirut airport will resume tomorrow in order to get these key flights out. I think an American flight has also been arranged as well. So hopefully the airport will resume. But I mean, who knows? Maybe
That's a
Israel
big
will
if, isn't
bomb
it?
the airport tonight.
I
Who
don't think
knows?
I don't think the Israelis are going to care about evacuation flights, even if it's Western nationals. So it's a big if, isn't it? Whether you're going to get out tomorrow or not. But you know, it's all in Allah's hands at the end of the day. And you know, if you do, alhamdulillah. If you don't, alhamdulillah. It's all in Allah's hands. Victory Design says, "What was Rob doing in Lebanon?" you need to catch up. You need to get with the program, Victory Design. He's reporting on the news. Some people saying that Turkey will enter, that it won't enter. I can't see Turkey getting involved in this or any other Arab or Muslim states, apart from just condemnation and words. Can you see anyone intervening in a direct Israel-Iran confrontation?
I can't at the moment. I think that everyone looking at this is seeing this as basically Iran's fight with Israel. So Iran now has stepped in. Already we've seen Iran's regional allies hitting Israel and being hit by Israel. So I think other regional powers like Turkey will look at this and say, well, obviously we care about Palestine, but this fight is between Iran, and why would Turkey get involved on Iran's behalf? I don't think they would do that even if there was an appetite. Obviously, Turkey, I think, has its own interests. It is a NATO member. Going in militarily on Israel would obviously compromise all of that, wouldn't it? And I suppose the West would punish Turkey as well, turn it into a pariah. They wouldn't tolerate it, as far as I assume. So I just don't see that situation happening. I think Turkey and other regional powers have failed to properly sanction Israel even. So why would they enter militarily when they can't force themselves to commit meaningful total sanctions on Israel? Obviously suggests that they wouldn't do that. So I'd be very, very surprised if that was the case.
Yeah. I think I'm going to try and get a few people on, inshallah, Robert, to join us, because this is too big for just you and me, isn't it?
I'd be very interested to hear what people suggest, what they think, and what their predictions are, because obviously these are really, really unusual, unprecedented times, and it seems as if no one can really properly predict what's going to happen.
Question for you here, Robert. How about the Houthis? What are they going to do?
Well, the Houthis have targeted a British ship. I think within the last few hours, maybe the last 6 hours, a Red Sea tanker was targeted by the Houthis. Obviously, the Yemen was hit quite badly on its vital port city of Hodeidah just about a day ago in retaliation for their strikes on Tel Aviv Ben Gurion Airport and other attacks that they've committed. So we're probably going to see more of the same. I think now that Iran has attacked Israel, it's going to be a bit of a boost for their allies in the region. They'll probably want to pile in and throw a few missiles themselves. But obviously they're limited in their ability to attack Israel. They tend to launch quite small attacks, which tend to be repelled relatively effectively by Israel. But obviously, if this is a region-wide effort to target Israel now, including Iran, including Lebanon, there might be a coordinated attack now. You might see attacks coming at Israel from all directions at the same time, and they're already struggling to repel this Iranian attack. So that could be the next escalation that we see, especially if Israel attacks Iran directly. Iran's definitely going to escalate then. As we know, they might tolerate their proxies being hit, but they certainly wouldn't tolerate their own territory being hit. So they'll probably spark all their proxies and get them all involved in that case.
Okay, I'm just inviting a few people to come on to the show, inshallah. We haven't prepped this at all, brothers and sisters, so we need to you need to bear with us a little bit. This is going to be a little bit ropey, but I'm just inviting people to come on and join us so that you can get more analysis than just us two. So Press TV is saying that 80% of missiles fired at the occupied territories have hit their targets. So that's Iranian TV saying that. Obviously, we have to verify that. It'll be interesting to see what the Israelis are saying. So I'm just going to go on to Israeli media now. Robert, you might want to just keep talking a little bit while I find that.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, I guess prediction is what would happen next. I think that Israel will quite likely respond to Iran directly. I think they kind of have to. What we saw last time, I noticed when Iran launched strikes at Israel directly, I forget which month it was. It was quite some time ago now, several months back, perhaps April, perhaps that's too far. But certainly an attack like this has happened already following October the 7th. I noticed that the Iranian strike seemed pretty controlled. It was pretty restrained. And then Israel's so-called counter-attack, so-called, was also pretty non-existent. It was pretty restrained as well, if it even existed at all. I remember you and me were reacting to it by noting that Iranians were just basically out enjoying the day. They didn't even notice any kind of attack from Israel. So it's possible that in this scenario, Israel might retaliate, but again, might keep it restrained just because they want to de-escalate perhaps with Iran. It might be a wake-up call for them, this attack. But from what we're seeing from the comments and from Netanyahu's regime's behavior so far is that they have this weird policy of escalate to de-escalate. And at the moment, I mean, it's escalating really seriously. So what, are they going to keep escalating? Because what happens next? A full-blown regional war? Obviously, who knows? There could be wider powers entering into the region. How far does Israel want to take this? Because the fact of the matter is, Israel is it has technology, it has support from the West, but it is also a small territory, kind of stuck in between two Palestinian chunks as well. So obviously they are relatively vulnerable too, especially if you can see and assume that Iran actually does have what it takes to land missiles past its air defense, which seems to be the case tonight. It seems as if a lot of missiles has hit Israel. That means that Israel could, in a massive full-on regional war that lasts a long time, get very seriously damaged over a sustained period of serious attacks. So let's see.
Robert, could you try and rejoin with your camera on?
Yeah,
It's better if we can see your face, I think. Let's give it a go. If not, we'll stick with audio because audio is very clear.
I've changed position. It might improve it. Let's see.
Anyway, we know, alhamdulillah, we know that we've got a backup where you turn your camera off and at least we can hear you, what you have to say, which is the most important thing. Let me read out a little bit of what the Israeli media are saying. So obviously, while the Iranians are cock a hoop and playing this up, the Israelis are playing it down. Israeli media are already saying that they've told their citizens that they can leave their shelters after an attack of 180 Iranian ballistic missiles. They're reporting that Ayatollah Khamenei, the Iranian leader, is in a secure location, according to an Iranian official. Germany, which is so pro-Israel, has condemned the Iranian attack very, very loudly. We know that Germany has banned all pro-Palestinian demonstrations and waving the Palestinian flag. Obviously, we know that what they did in the Second World War, that Nazi mentality, it appears that right-wing Nazi mentality has transferred from the Jews to the Palestinians now in Germany. They've literally been one of the main backers of this genocide and the strongest Israeli allies. The IDF, Israel's military, has imposed a closed military zone along the border with Lebanon. The US, many US politicians have condemned the Iranian attack.
There is a lot of jubilant scenes all over the Arab world, at least in Palestine. I've heard gunshots here in Beirut. So there's celebrations here in Lebanon as well at the news of the attack. I think that a lot of people were really shocked by the lack of immediate response by Iran and by other Iranian allies in the region following the killing of Nasrallah here in Beirut some days ago. People seem to be genuinely surprised and shocked that the Iranians didn't immediately retaliate. But it does seem as if they were preparing for this, and for whatever reason, it took time. They didn't want to be rushed into a retaliation. They wanted to consider their options and speak to regional partners, apparently. So what does that mean? Does that mean that there's more to come? Is Iran preparing for more attacks? I don't know. I think the fact that they've already said that this is their retaliation for both Nasrallah and Haniyeh means that they're hoping that this might de-escalate tensions. They're hoping that they've done their bit, and now perhaps if Israel sort of takes it on the chin, they can kind of step back a little bit. But obviously Israel's still committed to Lebanon as well, and I don't foresee Israel giving up on that just yet. I think that Israel is still going to be attacked.
Robert, obviously we're reacting to live information now that's coming in thick and fast. So all of our analysis might change in half an hour. But we're doing our best here. But my assumption at the moment is that this is another limited Iranian attack. It looks like they've gone for military bases. They haven't gone for cities. They haven't gone for civilian areas. They've gone for military bases. It looks like they might have hit a few of those bases. We don't know how many people have been killed, but it looks like not many people have been killed by these ballistic missiles. The only people so far confirmed dead are in that shooting in Tel Aviv, which we assume was done by a Palestinian, although I'm not sure. So it looks like a larger Iranian attack than in April, and an Iranian attack which wasn't so telegraphed and choreographed, but still it looks like a limited attack designed to deter Israel, because Israel looks like it's already reopened its airspace. That's according to their media anyway. Hopefully I'm not being taken for a ride by their media, but that's what they're saying.
It's very hard to say. I think when it comes to opening airspace, resuming flights, people will know if you're making that up, because people are obviously trying to fly. So that would be debunked pretty quickly, even by mainstream press, I think. So that information might be accurate, especially if it's reported by a proper Israeli news organization, because obviously they are updating their civilians as well as trying to mislead the civilians of other nations as well. I think what's obviously interesting is Israelis are going to cry victim now. They're going to say, oh, look, here's an example of how oppressed we are, and oh my goodness, these evil Muslims, and so on and so forth. But the fact is they all ran to their bunkers, and bunks which they had, and they've got their air defense. They command the skies as well. The Palestinians don't have that option. The people in Lebanon here don't have that option. And Israel targets civilians on purpose. I know that. I've seen it. I've literally seen it with my own eyes. So don't you tell me that they're precision strikes. They're not. These are strikes on civilian heavy areas. And we've heard from propaganda from Israel that many of the civilian structures in South Lebanon, for example, have like rocket launchers and I don't know, like ballistic missiles underground, and they have a little room with a missile in it in their homes. I mean, this is such a ridiculous lie. It's insulting to the mind. But the fact is, there are fools, ideological fools in the West that will accept that and eat it up. Because obviously they perhaps hate Muslims or hate Arabs, I don't know. But the fact that people believe that is ridiculous. The civilians I'm meeting here, they're civilians. They're not terrorists. They don't know. They don't have weapons. They don't know where Hezbollah keeps its missiles stockpiled. They're under some bunker somewhere or under the mountains. These people with kids and elderly, some old granny sitting at her home, bless her heart, drinking her chai tea or, you know, watching the stars of an evening. She doesn't have a clue where Hezbollah keeps its arsenal, but her home is being targeted and destroyed and then justified using these stupid lines, just like the beheaded babies crap. Excuse my language, Roshan. I'm a bit animated, but the BS that we've been fed time and again, and now they're spoon feeding us more, and we're supposed to choke it down, and the mainstream media is just lapping it up. So obviously, I'm very upset about that. But you know, the Israelis are liars. We have to watch out for what they say. They lie time and again, and most of what they say is just propaganda nonsense. So do watch out for that.
Yeah, brothers and sisters, we've got about 1,800 people watching, so the numbers have risen steadily. Keep sharing this feed with your friends and family. We did start 1 hour earlier than expected, simply because we wanted to react to the news. But alhamdulillah, we got very, very healthy numbers, loads of comments coming in. If you want to ask a question, you can pay us on a super chat, and you're guaranteed to get that question. But that doesn't mean that you can't chance your arm, because we're not mercenaries here. We're not mercenaries. So I'll still take your questions even if you don't pay for it. But Abu Robinson has given us £5.
That's a good one. Read this one out.
Yeah, Abu Robinson, £5. Jazakallah khair, brother, for helping us out. May that weigh heavy on your scales. Has anyone checked on MBS and MBZ? MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed of the UAE. They must be devastated. There will be a minute's silence in Dubai and Riyadh. Well, you know, Robert, I've told you this before. I don't go to the Emirates anymore. I used to go a lot. I went there on holiday quite a few times, and I just don't. I refuse to go now, simply because they are such traitors. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the leaders of that country. They're literally embedded with Israel. They have the same ideology as Israel. They're bedfellows. They think the same. You know, their peace with Israel is not a cold peace. Like you can say that Egypt's peace with Israel is a cold peace. They don't actually like each other, especially the peoples, but for whatever reason, there's a peace treaty there, which is disgusting, but it's a cold peace. So is the peace with Jordan. It's a cold peace. But the peace with UAE and Bahrain, it's a warm peace. They like each other. You go to, the last time I was in the UAE on transit, I've seen, Israelis in the airport, in Dubai International Airport, eating stuff in their faces at McDonald's, and no one was batting an eyelid. No one cared. Flights going from UAE to Tel Aviv and the other way around. So I boycott UAE. I boycott Emirates. I boycott anything to do with that country. And I encourage other Muslims to do the same. I really don't know why Muslims are even living in that country.
Yeah, I suppose it's economic reasons that are driving people there, but yeah, I think it's a principle.
No, if you just stop me there, Robert. Look, if you're going to emigrate, if you want to emigrate from this country, there are plenty of places to emigrate to which aren't literally in bed with the Zionist regime. I know that all Muslim countries have their issues and their faults, but the UAE have taken it to another level. They're in bed with the enemies of Islam, with the enemies of Palestine and Masjid al-Aqsa, who are literally trying to destroy Masjid al-Aqsa. They've just taken it to a different level.
Yeah, I think, the fact is that there was some interesting comments that I made, and Dilly actually made those comments as well, about the fact that maybe because of the fight that's unfolding between Iran, its axis, and Israel now, and the fact that Israel has been on top of this initially, it seems, Iran has been a bit slow to respond and a bit less enthusiastic to directly support its proxies in the region than many suspected. That actually this whole affair and the hits that Iran and its allies have taken may have actually empowered and emboldened the normalization camp quite a bit, because obviously from their perspective, how they would argue and justify their actions is that fighting Israel doesn't work, that the Muslim world isn't strong enough to militarily defeat it. They tried it and they failed, and now they have to come to terms with it. But this could change things.
They've tried peace as well, don't forget, Robert. Look, what is the Oslo Accords? That for 40 years,
that's a good point.
The Palestinian leadership on the Fatah side, who represent half the Palestinians, let's say, or maybe a bit less now, but they recognized Israel, and they tried to make peace with Israel and work with Israel. Literally, Mahmoud Abbas and Yasser Arafat before him, they did Israel's security for them in the West Bank. So the peaceful path has been trodden as well. The only thing that will work with Israel is surrender. Literally surrender. And have you seen that? I actually looked at the Greater Israel. We were talking about a Greater Israel, weren't we, on last map? And I actually looked at the Greater Israel map that some of these religious fanatic, Zionists adhere to, and it actually includes parts of Saudi Arabia. It's like Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, the Sinai area, and also parts of Saudi Arabia. So, one day, these guys are going to have their eyes and their weapons trained on Saudi Arabia.
And obviously, you know what that means. Mecca and Medina, our beloved holy sites, will be potentially in the crosshairs. You know, that's what that means. Honestly, I mean, already they're going for Masjid al-Aqsa. If they're going for that, and if God forbid they get somewhere with that campaign, then I mean they'll literally go for anything and everything. That's why obviously it makes sense that Muslims have to take a stand now, defend Palestine, and try and help the Palestinian situation in order to stop Zionist expansion in the region, because it's murderous. But yeah, I think you make a very good point. You can't say Egypt's peace treaty is disgusting. They don't have the power to do anything, and they're protecting their people. Well, I mean, Egypt has a pretty strong military, to be honest with you, so they certainly can do something. The idea that they can't do anything, I mean, just look at Yemen, to be honest with you. No one was expecting a country like Yemen to do anything in this situation, and they've actually gone above and beyond in terms of targeting Israel than any of their Arab counterparts. So obviously this idea that the Arab world has no ability, can't do anything, is factually not true. They can do something, but they're choosing not to, for obvious reasons. They want to preserve the regimes in those countries. They want to maintain good relations with the West, even though the people in those countries are suffering. You know, they're not seeing any economic benefit in Egypt. In fact, they're being really suppressed. They're going through a real harsh state of economic hardship because Egypt's signing up to the International Monetary Fund and getting donations from that in order to prop up its economy, but it's caused massive inflation and austerity on its people to a ridiculous level. People are struggling to get bread and stuff like that in some cases. So Egypt is oppressed. You know, this staying out of it game is not working for Egypt. If they were really prosperous, then I could maybe understand, but it's just not a winning strategy.
Robert, I'm just going to quickly react, and then I'm going to go and pray, and I'm going to ask you to take over for 5 minutes or a bit more while I pray, inshallah. But Imam M, what you just said, that's khayana. That is khayana. That is treason. You know, that is treason against the Muslim Ummah. That's treason against our Palestinian brothers and sisters, against Masjid al-Aqsa. Egypt did not have to make that peace treaty. They could have just stopped fighting Israel. They could have had a hudna, a truce or whatever, you know, like Hamas did for so many years. But it was a choice, because Sadat wanted to have peace with Israel because he thought he had the same kind of mentality, a kind of pro-Western mentality. So it was a choice. And you are advocating the surrender of the Muslim Ummah to the Zionist regime. That is khayana. You need to check yourself. I'm going to put you on.
How are you going to leave?
I'm going to leave. I'm going to put you on full screen, Robert. Fine. And if you, for whatever reason, freeze, brothers and sisters, just go on to kind of, you know, just to take your face off and keep talking. I'll be back soon, inshallah.
All right, great. So basically, yes, I suppose what will hopefully happen when Roshan returns is we'll go through some more comments. So I do encourage everyone to keep them coming in, because I think that's what adds to the discussion. And I would appreciate hearing what you guys think and feel is going to happen now, because even I'm a bit stunned. For anyone who's tuning, we're talking about everything that's happening in the Middle East today. The talk was titled Israel Invades Lebanon, and that was going to be the focus of our discussion tonight. But in the last few hours, there's been some major escalations which have turned the focus away from that towards Israel, because Iran has launched a massive missile barrage at Israeli territory and has hit some targets there, according from what we can see from footage going viral online and many headlines. Iran's attack has been semi-successful, and many of its rockets have actually landed. hitting targets in Israel. So we're going to wait and see the extent of the damage in the upcoming hours. And of course, if there have been any casualties as a result of that, we will eventually find out. Interestingly, there's also been a mass shooting incident in Tel Aviv. An armed gunman roaming the streets has killed a number of people. I believe over perhaps close to 9 people has been harmed. I think there was 9 injuries, 4 confirmed deaths some about an hour ago, and I think several others were in critical condition. So obviously there was that attack. The gunman has been apprehended, possibly killed, I don't know, but certainly the attack has come to an end. We will have to wait and see for more details on that as it comes out. Apparently, according to the Israeli regime forces, they are intending to continue their military incursion into Lebanon tonight. That's something which was reported earlier on in the evening. Has events that have occurred here delayed that action? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. What sometimes happens is Israel can be quite vengeful and quite nasty in its behavior. So if it does get hit or wronged in some way from their perspective, they tend to lash out and attack Gaza quite badly, kill a lot of civilians there. They may lash out and attack Lebanon again. Whilst I've been here in Beirut, there has been almost, if not daily, attacks on Beirut, particularly the southern suburbs, which are Shia-heavy areas of the capital, considered a Hezbollah stronghold by many. They've been targeting that quite badly, targeting areas around Beirut Rafik Hariri airport, but other areas in the country too have been very heavily hit. A lot of civilians have been getting killed here, just like in Gaza. Same thing again in repeat. Israel says that it's conducting precision strikes and targeting military infrastructure of terrorist groups, but in reality, many civilians get caught up in that and killed. And that's exactly what's happened here in Lebanon. Well over 1,000 people have been killed so far, including women and children. Pretty much everywhere, like all of the major cities and towns in Lebanon have been hit at least once by Israel. There are some areas that remain unhit, but Israel controls the skies. There is a constant presence of drones flying over air in Beirut. You can hear them throughout the day continuously. It never ends. That's a form of terrorism. I think that they're trying to strike fear into the hearts of Lebanese people, and they do that via many ways. Drones flying overhead is one, sonic brooms from low-flying jets, that's another thing we've heard, and then of course just fake news in the media, terror attacks that we see, like what's been the pager and walkie-talkie attacks that happened a couple of weeks back now. They've been described by many analysts in the West as well as a terrorist attack, basically an illegal type of booby trap that shouldn't be legally used in normal circumstances. Israel obviously argues against that. They say that they're targeting terrorists and these are precision attacks, but obviously we'll leave that up to you to decide where that falls. Many people are condemning Israel for just committing more and more war crimes, basically, and just getting away with it. I think what's going to happen now is obviously Israel's going to play the victim. They're going to say, oh, these evil Iranians, these Islamists in the region are attacking us. We have a war on seven fronts or whatever it is, multiple fronts. And, we're the victims. We need help. We need to protect ourselves. Israel has a right to self-defense, apparently, but then they apply none of those policies or narratives to the Palestinians, of course, because according to some in Israel, Palestinians don't even exist. There's no Palestinian culture. So this is the double standards that we're seeing. This is the hypocrisy of everything happening here. I think one thing I'd like to hear from you guys is, what's the solution? Assalamu alaikum, Dilly. Welcome to the program.
Salam. Robert, how you doing, bro? Yeah, I can hear you, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm glad you joined. Roshan is just performing Salih, so he's praying. Sure. So it would be a good break from my voice for our audience. Sure. I don't know if you can control comments. I've asked people to send them in. I can't see them yet. So perhaps if you want to go through or, just give us your analysis. I'm desperate to hear what you have to say.
So Roshan's back from Salah. He's going to stay backstage for a bit and he'll show comments and post comments. I mean, look, I think this recent ballistic missile attack heading towards Tel Aviv that we've seen, I think around between 300 to 400 ballistic missiles, it was imminent. Iran had to respond. It's got so many things it needs to respond to. It needs to respond to the assassination of Daif. It needs to respond to the assassination of Haniya in Tehran. It needs to respond to the assassination of Nasrallah and the senior command leadership of Hezbollah. If Iran was not to retaliate, we'll get to the extent of the retaliation, we'll get to how effective and how different this attack was to the previous one in April. But Iran had to attack. There would be no resistance axes if Iran wasn't going to do some kind of attack. So I'm not sure if you and Roshan have covered this, but in case you haven't, we know that around 300 to 400 mainly ballistic missiles have been fired at Israel, mainly towards Tel Aviv. What makes this particular attack different to the one back in April is that the missiles that were fired back in April used to take around 9 to 12 hours to reach Israel or occupied Palestine. However, these ballistic missiles take round about 9 to 12 minutes, actually. So there was very little warning. However, in a press briefing earlier today, the Biden administration were informed that Iran was going to attack Tel Aviv today. How they got hold of that whiff? I personally think the Iranians gave them that heads up. I think, in fact, they've already admitted it. They said, yes, we gave the Americans a heads up that an attack was imminent. How long it was going to take for those missiles to eventually arrive in Tel Aviv, I don't think that was shared with Biden. And we've also seen how many of these missiles have actually not been intercepted by Israel's invincible Iron Dome. We're seeing Palestinians in Gaza rejoicing at seeing these missiles heading towards Tel Aviv. And it actually makes me sad, Robert. It makes me sad in the sense that, you know, we saw aid arriving in Gaza in dribs and drabs. And you never saw the people rejoice at aid, right? You never saw people rejoice. Oh, there's bread. Oh, there's water, smiles and laughter, joy, happiness. But these missiles have. And this is from a people who have been genocided for 11 and a half months. More than 100,000 now are believed to be dead, including those that have not been found yet. And I was thinking to myself, looking at the Gazans, you know, happy, rejoicing at these missiles because they can see them landing.
Dilly, your audio is playing up on my end. I think it could be your. I think it's like it's rubbing on the material. So yeah, just be mindful.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself, Robert, imagine those were Turkish jets. Imagine those were Egyptian airstrikes. Imagine those were Saudi missiles. Imagine this was state intervention that could have taken place much earlier on, you know, in the genocide, right? We also know that some of these missiles, these ballistic missiles, they've been actually intercepted by the US. So the US has been assisting Israel in intercepting some of these incoming ballistic missiles. We will not know the true effect and the extent of the damages caused by these ballistic missiles until tomorrow, I guess, right? Is it another futile attack like the one in April? Perhaps. But what we can say for sure is that these are different types of missiles than the ones that were used in April. These are ballistic. And the Iron Dome isn't necessarily designed to intercept these at such a successful rate than the kind of minor projectiles that are generally fired at from Hezbollah and Hamas. So there is that, at least. But again, this all boils down to, is this the theatrics of war? From the perspective that is this Iran basically responding because it has to respond, because it has to save face? Irrespective of the Israeli retaliation, and I'm sure they very well be retaliating, and we don't know the extent of that retaliation. We know that Netanyahu released a video message saying that Iran will be free sooner much rather than later, indicating towards regime change. So the three things that I have observed and analyzed from these recent Iranian missile attacks are the following. It is a bit different. It is a bit different to the ones in April from the perspective of the type of missiles that have been used, how long it's taking from them to reach from Iran to Tel Aviv, the amount of notice that was given to the US last time, I think the Israelis had over a week to prepare for an Iranian attack. Over a week, nearly 10 days, they were waiting around, knowing that the Iranians were going to attack. There was that difference. Number two, the amount of missiles that have actually not been intercepted by the Iron Dome. We've seen many footage, verified, authenticated footage from our contacts on the ground that have said that some of these missiles are actually hitting on the ground. They're hitting targets in Tel Aviv and elsewhere. Number three, and this is very, very important as well, it's to see how the Gazans have responded to this. It's important to see how the Gazans responded to this. And I say this because we all talk about Gaza and occupied Palestine being a humanitarian cause, being a cause of justice. Us three here and our team at 5 Pillars know very well that the issue of Palestine is an Islamic issue with a military solution. The only language that Israel understands is violence. The only language that Israel understands is terrorism, So to see the Gazans rejoicing at missiles that may not even bear any fruit in terms of actual damage or death toll, we don't know. We don't know the extent of these Iranian damages. But the joy in the Gaza just shows what they wanted, what they need. When these elderly Palestinian women are calling out to the Arab rulers and the Muslim leaders, this is what they want. Sure.
Can I jump in, Dilly? I'm looking at footage on social media. Apparently, there is footage of the damage to some sites in Israel going out now. If it's genuine, obviously we have to wait to verify it. Yeah. Targets have been hit. There's footage of a restaurant which has been damaged somewhere in Tel Aviv. There's also a building that's faced severe damage, craters in the ground as well. Very similar to what I've seen in Beirut, to be honest with you. So if those clips are true and they look fairly genuine to me at the moment, then it looks like we are starting to see. So 100% Iran has hit targets. And it's a varied mix of targets. I think it's been admitted that they've hit some military targets, but it looks like some civilian areas have also seen some action as well.
It's funny you say. Sorry, Roshan.
Yeah, before we go on, can we just answer these questions because they paid to have these questions answered. Yeah, Robert, you were stunned. Why?
It's an unprecedented attack. It is pretty large. To be honest with you, I was wondering if Iran was actually going to attack at all, or if they would kick the can into the long grass and vow revenge one day, and obviously put it on the back burner. But no, they have directly intervened here. Let's see. So yeah, it was a stunning attack. I was a little bit stunned by that. And to be honest with you, with the situation unfolding as it is here on the ground, there is a lot at stake, and I can see what's at stake: civilian life. So obviously, when there's an escalation like this, it's stunning in one way or another. And I think that many people on the ground in this region are, of course, stunned. Many celebrating, many perhaps living a bit fearfully about what Israel could do in retaliation. Israel lashes out. It attacks Gaza. It attacks Lebanon. If it won't attack Iran, then it will lash out at other countries, kill more civilians. So I think that's what people are going to be worried about now is, will Israel come and blow up my kids lashing out after this attack?
Dilly, do you want to take that one?
Are we heading towards World War III? Will other countries, as India and China, also get involved in the foreseeable future? No, I don't think that we're heading towards World War III. I think we need to just relax and chill out with this whole kind of World War III kind of rhetoric. I see it a lot. Could it be the precursor to a greater regional war? Sure, but from my perspective, and Roshan, please correct me if I'm wrong, brother. Historically speaking, when you define a world war, it means that the entire war is at war and there's two competing superpowers, or there's multiple competing superpowers. I don't see which superpower will come into the aid and support and defense of the Palestinians. So there is no World War III, but for sure, we are most definitely seeing the preliminary stages of a regional war, for sure.
Yeah, just a brief one from me. Obviously, while Russia and China might say things worthy of condemnation against what Israel's doing, they have no appetite for a confrontation with the US. Nor do I think they think that region is essential for them.
Yeah.
China's more focused on the China Sea area. Russia obviously has its hands full with Ukraine. But what I wanted to say is that obviously I might change my analysis because we're reacting to live information here. But to me, it looks like this is yet another limited, calibrated attack from Iran.
Yes. Yes.
Because they've gone for military bases. They haven't gone for civilian areas and up the ante with that. They could have killed lots of people. They haven't. They've gone for military bases. It looks like so far they haven't killed anybody in Israel. Might have injured a few people. So the difference is it's a larger scale attack than in April. As Dilly said, there was less telegraphing to the Americans and the British. So, come shoot down our missiles.
Yeah.
There's less of that. More of the missiles got through. So they proved that they can get the missiles through. So it's a larger scale, more significant attack than in April, but it's still a very limited attack designed for a very limited Israeli response and a lack of further escalation. I think that's what the Iranians are hoping for.
Yeah.
My gut is that they've probably misjudged, and Israel may use this to teach Iran a lesson, to either go for the nuclear facilities or for Iran's oil facilities, because obviously they need that oil to get money to fund the Houthis, to fund Hezbollah, to fund Hamas, etc. So that's my just general take so far.
No, I think that's a spot on take, Roshan. Just to add to that, I think they're going to attack that oil port. I've just seen a tweet now. Israelis basically tweeting that a certain, I don't know which port it is, that's going to be targeted by Israel, where majority of the oil comes from. Comes to Iran, so they're going to most definitely attack that. Now, look, brothers and sisters, let's not faff about here. In an all-out war between Israel and Iran militarily just doesn't stand a chance. It doesn't want a full escalation of a war. It simply doesn't. I think for many years, Iran and the resistance axis have benefited from the rhetoric, the very limited and restricted exchanges with Israel. I do still believe that this was a very calculated attack in ensuring that it doesn't escalate to an open war. I don't think Iran wants that. Israel wants that, and Israel wants to drag the US into that. Roshan, any more questions?
Yeah, sorry. I just think maybe I'm better behind the scenes, gathering the information, feeding the information to you, and flashing up some questions rather than being on here. So that's why I removed myself. Yeah, that's what I'll do, inshallah.
I want to mention something which was reported today amid the information regarding Israel's military operation in South Lebanon, their on-the-ground attack and invasion. Already there was things going around on social media claiming that Zionist settler groups were promoting and offering the chance to invest in property, settler colonialist property, in any territory in South Lebanon that's captured and occupied by Israeli forces. Now, obviously, that could be trolling. It might not be genuine, but it has gone viral here in Lebanon. And it's quite possibly true, to be honest with you. We know that there have been talks about settling Gaza and building Zionist homes on the Gaza beachfront and things like that, or turning it into a car park. You know, those nasty comments that they make, you know, praising their genocide. So we were also seeing that in Lebanon. So, you know, this concept of a greater Israel, I don't think it's like a conspiracy or, you know, fake news or even an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. It's real. You know, they actually want it. They're saying it themselves. I know you tweeted an article that was then deleted by an Israeli news website. That was deleted. It was deleted, yeah. So talking about this very subject. So it's even mainstream inside Israel. We know that they want to destroy Masjid al-Aqsa and they're going for it. We know that they want to continue to build settlements in Palestinian territory. And we know now that they have their eye on Lebanon. So Greater Israel is real. And I think we need to talk about this more as Muslims, because obviously, as we know, mainstream sources in the West shy away from these concepts. They pretend it doesn't happen. And even Zionist forces in the West, they act like Israel is a force for good on the world stage, and that it's a democracy and it's the most moral army in the world and all of this rubbish. So I think we've got to be a bit more pronounced in tackling and raising awareness of the Greater Israel project that's obviously underway, just as we have to also maintain our criticism of the Zionist ideology itself. One thing that I'm a little bit irritated about is the fact that MPs, even Muslim MPs, when they're elected, they just don't tackle Zionism. And that's something which I would like to see in Westminster, kind of opening up the debate on Zionism again. Even Jeremy Corbyn, someone who has condemned Zionism in the past, once he became mainstream with the Labour Party, he completely ditched it, wouldn't discuss it, wouldn't talk about it at all. Even after October the 7th, I think that there are pro-Palestine groups that might be refraining from mentioning the word Zionism because it's too controversial. So I think those are key areas where we can focus on to highlight just what we're dealing with here. When we're talking about Israel, a colonialist regime, Zionism, Greater Israel, we have to be brave and to talk about these things.
I'm just going to touch on your point about the Greater Israel, because I was listening to an LBC show today. What's the host's name? Sheila something. Proper pro-Israel. Sheila, I forgot her name. But I just want to, Roshan, there was a question you just had there. That comment that you had just before. Look, brothers and sisters, the one about the ballistic missiles that took 10 minutes or so. Look, when you're at war, brothers and sisters, let's just manage some expectations and realities here. Yeah, you know, when you're at war, you don't generally inform the other side or their protectors or the superpowers like America or Russia. Or, by the way, we're going to attack Israel. This tells us that Iran doesn't want an escalation to an open war. It doesn't want that. Israel wants that. Israel would love an opportunity to not just bomb Iran, but as many countries as possible in the Middle East, which it sees as a problem and an obstacle in its Greater Israel land-grabbing plan. So whilst I appreciate that, yes, these are hypersonic missiles, and Iran is sending a clear message, similarly, they're also sending a message that we do not want an open war.
Oh, your audio, Dilly.
Yeah,
It's happening again.
We don't want an open war. You don't give warnings if you want an open war. The type of missile attacks that we've seen today, if they were to sustain that for, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days, couple of weeks on the trot, that's a different conversation. Today I was listening to an LBC show. I forgot her second name. Sheila was the host. And multiple callers. Sheila Fogati, that's it. Thank you very much, Hanadi, thank you very much. And basically multiple callers, even non-Muslims, Englishmen. You could tell by their voice and their accents. They were talking about Greater Israel, and she was just shutting it down. She was just shutting down the debate. She wasn't having any of it. She was like, listen, and she kept repeating this, like, oh, how can Israel be interested in Greater Israel when they gave the Sinai to the Egyptians, or when they withdrew from Gaza in 2006? Very lazy and predictable arguments. The point of the matter for Israel is that it's willing to make minimal, insignificant concessions for the broader picture of expanding and land grabbing. What is the point of Israeli settlers, Jewish settlers, leaving Gaza if Gaza is going to remain an open-air prison for the last 15, 16 years? So yes, whilst they made some minimal, ceremonial, meaningless concessions, at the end of the day, Israel is seeking to grab land in Lebanon, in the West Bank, in Gaza, into Egypt, Sinai, parts of Iraq, Jordan, from the river to the sea. That is the project of Greater Israel. Now they may instigate a regional war to fulfill this. They may give up certain concessions here and there, like they did with the Sinai desert, with the getting their settlers to leave Gaza. You know, these small concessions that Western pundits cite to prove that, oh, there is no Greater Israel project. There's absolutely a Greater Israel project. And they're going to focus first and foremost in securing the entirety of historic occupied Palestine. Right? They will get to Iraq, they will get to Egypt, they will get to Iran once they have taken the land that they need in the actual main historic Palestine. If Saudi, UAE, Jordan, Turkey wanted, the genocide would have ended within 6 hours. Truth is, anyone with US bases in the country is their slave. Nationalism has destroyed us. It's our greatest enemies. Spot on. You're correct. Many Palestinians have said, look, we're not asking Jordan and Turkey to send their soldiers. We're just telling Turkey, stop the gas, stop the boats, stop the lorries of food that is nourishing our oppressors and our killers. I've heard many Palestinians say, we've gone beyond the hope and the aspiration of anyone sending any armies or soldiers or fighter jets, sadly. But just stop the boats. Stop the gas that's going for Azerbaijan, that Turkey's overseeing, that's going into Israel. Stop the food. Stop the supplies. Stop everything. We're not asking to sacrifice your sons and your men. Just stop trading. Boycott them. And, if they'd have done this in a collective and meaningful way for the sake of Allah and to prevent this genocide, we wouldn't have seen this. But could have, would have, should have, this is all from Shaitan. What's happened is what Allah decreed for it to happen. And let's see what the imminent days and weeks brings. I'd be very surprised if there was an all-out war between Israel and Iran. I think Iran's, even tonight's missile attack, as Roshan mentioned, wasn't as choreographed, wasn't as given as planned in terms of notifying the Americans and Russians, even though they did notify the Americans and the Russians, just not weeks and 10 days. Iran doesn't want an open war because it will lose that war. This is the truth. If America gets involved and all those military bases that the brother who commented in previously, all those military bases will be used to then decimate and annihilate Iran. And that will very much fall within the geopolitical interests of Saudi Arabia and the UAE and other GCC states. So it'll be very interesting to see what the next 24 to 96 hours brings. How will Israel respond? Will Iran continue with these attacks into tomorrow and the following days? We just don't know.
Yeah, I won't be able to stay much longer, unfortunately, but there are a couple of things I want to mention before I clock out. I have been meeting a lot of displaced people and refugees here in Lebanon. I think we have to remember that past these headlines and the viral footage of bullets and bombs flying around, that there are innocent people here, brothers and sisters, who are desperate to live and obviously are suffering. They have children. I met people today with severe disabilities that are living rough. They're being given rooms in schools, and in some cases have to share those rooms with many other people. So it's a desperate situation here already, and the Israel hasn't targeted the entirety of Lebanon completely yet. There are still cities that remain unhit. The ground invasion has been very modest at this stage, but the potential for a massive escalation remains incredibly high. And I think that Israel potentially could go for a much deeper push into South Lebanon in the days and weeks coming up. So if that happens, it will be very serious. Israel is going to carpet bomb Lebanon in that case in order to provide air cover for its troops. As we know, Israel can't tolerate massive loss of life very well without significant pressure inside their regime and also internationally as well. So obviously they're going to hit Lebanon really hard and attack civilian areas. So let's remember the innocent people here and pray for them as well. Add Lebanon and the Lebanese to your prayers when praying for Palestine, for example. But also, yes, we have to worry about it, because I think one of the comments that you brought up earlier mentioned about past comments that Netanyahu has made earlier in his career, talking about the fact that Israel may need to have a regional war at some point. He kind of predicted it and promoted it even. And I think that that's who we're dealing with. We're dealing with a lunatic, an absolute lunatic, a sadistic killer who will kill as many kids as it takes in order to achieve his objectives of perhaps a greater Israel. Who knows? It's a murderous wicked regime that is. It's found a way to normalize the killing of Muslims. It's found a way to normalize the killing of babies, of children, and the West is just going along with it. And I mean, you know, if I'm going to be really controversial and frank, people talk about who is in charge. Who is in charge? Is it America that's pulling the strings here, or is it the regime in Tel Aviv? And I remember seeing this bloodthirsty killer Netanyahu going to the White House and going to Congress and receiving a standing ovation, even though he was months into the genocide, slaughtered many innocent people, and that was a fact. So I don't know. I really don't know. You could get a bit conspiratorial after this, but I just feel like there's something bigger at work here, and it could be the case that they're going to finally make a push. If not now, then in the near future for this greater Israel concept. I really fear for that. And it means that they're going to have to do a lot more genociding in order to get away with it.
Robert, are we going to see you tomorrow? Later on tomorrow, or
day by day? I think you mentioned earlier on in the talk that Beirut airport has been shut temporarily and some flights cancelled this evening. Yeah. So who knows? It's day by day here. The situation can change immediately. Israel could launch a massive attack tonight. They've been bombing Lebanon indiscriminately. They control the skies. They bomb by surprise. They don't issue warnings whenever they hit. And they've hit Beirut pretty severely multiple times since I've been here. Massive multiple attacks on civilian areas. So who knows? Who knows? The airport could get hit at any stage. That's what's feared. And if that's the case, then Lebanon's pretty trapped because obviously, as you know, it's surrounded by either Syria, which is not a great place to go to necessarily, and also Israel itself on the southern border, and then the Mediterranean Sea.
So how are you gonna get out?
It's day by day. It's day by day.
How are you going to get out?
What are you smiling for, Roshan? Roshan's smiling like it's a good thing. How are you going to get out? It's like he wants you to get out.
Yeah, I think, I think Roshan, basically I've been getting a lot of advice since arriving. Rob, why the heck are you here? Get out, man, you crazy lunatic. And every time I tell Roshan about that advice, even from friends of the platform, he's like, no, don't listen about that. Just, stay for a couple of months if you want.
No. Look, I'll be honest. I'll put my cards on the table now. I'll tell you the truth and tell the audience. I'll tell you the conversations I've been having with Dilly and Robert about this. Obviously, my instinct as a journalist is that you're there during a very historical time, you know, and that should take precedence. However, having spoken to a lot of Lebanese friends, they're all telling me that this is a very strange situation. Not only is Israel bombing indiscriminately, but no one trusts each other in Lebanon because of the pager attack, because of the obvious intelligence breaches, Mossad, all that kind of stuff. Everyone is suspicious of everyone else. And Robert, as a white guy in the Arab world, you know, is probably a target in many ways if you're out in the streets reporting. So I don't think you can do your job freely. And I think that's a prerequisite. If you're going to be there, the prerequisite is that you're able to do your job. And I don't think you are able to do your job like we would want you to. So yeah, maybe your presence there isn't really needed. I mean, you've done amazing so far, and I'm glad you've been there for the week that you have, but perhaps it's time to come home.
Yeah, I'll obviously update Five Pillars audience about my movements. It's day by day. A scenario could come where I can leave, maybe a scenario come where I'm trapped. So I'll let you know. I'll definitely let you know, inshallah. But yeah, just pray for me when you can, and definitely pray for Lebanon. We need those prayers now.
Stay safe, my brother.
Okay,
see you soon.
Inshallah, see you soon, Robert.
Yeah, take care. Masalam, Allah Mark. Masalam.
Dilly, I know you've got to go as well. I think I'll just stay on 10 minutes after you finish. I know you've got to go at 8. Any parting words from you?
I mean, it's a kind of like, I just think people need to, you know, we've had 11 and a half months of a genocide. We've seen the ground incursion and, you know, the airstrikes in Lebanon. So let's just be brutally honest, right? The Muslims, the Muslim Ummah, wherever they are, they've been waiting for some kind of retaliation. You know, they don't, and even like the critics and the haters of Iran and Hezbollah, even the ones who've been belittling them and mocking them, you know, it's like, come on, like where is this imminent attack? What resistance is there? But I think we need to manage expectations from the perspective and remind everyone that Iran does not actually want an open war with Israel. Because it knows its means and capabilities. It knows the US military bases that are stationed practically orbiting around it, right? And it doesn't want that war. Israel wants that war. It wants to drag the US into that war. And that is what we need to be mindful of and continue reminding people, Muslims and non-Muslims, people who we interact with, that it is not Iran that is actually dragging the region into war, it's Israel. And you know, we need to manage expectations from the perspective that, yes, the Gazans are rejoicing because they've been besieged and they've been genocided for nearly a year now. Of course, they're going to rejoice at any kind of retaliatory attacks towards the people that have been genociding them, of course. So yeah, my concluding thoughts are pretty much similar to yours, Roshan. I think today's attack from Iran, you know, the Russians were told, the Americans were told, not as much notice as last time, as in April, but they were still told. And when you're in war, you don't tell your enemies when you're going to attack, right? So that's an indication that Iran doesn't really want that full-scale escalation, but it had to attack today, whether you want to call it a fireworks attack or a theatrical attack or something that was a bit more impactful and meaningful and you know, and damaging than the April attack. They had to do something, or else there'd be no face left for the resistance axis. There'd be nothing left.
I think we're in a situation where the resistance axis fans will big up this attack.
Oh yes,
and
of course.
Like,
they are.
Long live Iran! Look what they've done. And the Iran haters will say it's all theatrics and fireworks.
Yeah.
So I think we're in the same situation as we've always been. But yeah, just to kind of react to what you say, I know you've got to go, so I'll keep it short. Yeah, I think October the 7th, I'm not commenting on October the 7th, but it did heighten the expectation amongst pro-Palestinians that there was a military solution against Israel. And that was never on the cards, brothers and sisters. Israel has this military superiority, financial superiority, political intelligence that at the moment is insurmountable. And I think at the very most, the resistance axis acts as a brake on Israel's expansionist dreams. That's probably the most praise we can give them. But they aren't in a position to liberate Masjid al-Aqsa, nor do I believe they will, you know? So I think we have to be more realistic that it's a question of not losing. At the moment, I don't think there's a win, not from a military perspective at the moment. But one day there could be in the future. You know, I'm not sure what Islam has to say about that. Maybe you can educate me. But from a secular perspective, I really do believe that in the future, Israel's days are numbered. Yeah.
Well, Masjid al-Aqsa will be liberated and the Holy Lands will come under the justice and the rule of Islam again. This is something that Allah has promised. We know that Jerusalem will be the future capital of the Caliphate. We know that when Imam Mahdi alayhi salam and all the end of times prophecies will be towards that region. In the same way that Zionist Jews and Jews themselves have their end of times eschatological prophecies, so do the Christians and so do Muslims. Some of it overlaps and some of it's different. Victory will be with the Muslims because the only time there's ever been justice in the Holy Land has been under Islamic rule. Now, similar to you, will Iran and the Axis of Resistance liberate Palestine and Al-Aqsa? No, I do not believe that to be the case. I don't even, personally, I'm speaking to many of their supporters, I don't even think they believe that they will be the conquering army that will march into Jerusalem and liberate Al-Aqsa. No. You know, looking at what Israel is on paper, militarily, economically, everything that you mentioned, with the support it enjoys from US and Russia and every other superpower, you know, the impunity in which it acts within the region, there's a slow game here. There's a slow game here. And I'm going to reiterate Salahuddin al-Ayyubi because we all love talking about Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Whenever Palestine or Gaza is attacked, the first thing that Masajid and Islamic organizations do is that you'll have a host of events on Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. I encourage you all to go and read into the history of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi and Nuruddin al-Zinki, rahimahullah, before him. It was a long process. When the Crusaders took Jerusalem in 1099, it took nearly 100 years to liberate it. It's a slow game. And it took them nearly 100 years at a time when there was an Islamic civilization, when there were Islamic polities and armies that were willing to fight the Crusaders and so forth. So I think we just need to be very realistic about expectations. We need to actually be focusing on, in terms of, if you really want to talk about liberation, look at the neighboring countries. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan. These are countries that surround the Holy Land. Nearly every single one of those countries hosts US military air bases. Before we talk about the liberation of Al-Aqsa, these are massive obstacles that we need to be talking about. Right, Roshan? Like, if you're surrounded like that, right, where a nuclear warhead can just be dropped anywhere at will, if America says so, because of the bases that it has orbiting the entirety of the Middle East, yeah, we need to be thinking about a long game. That's not that we don't want quick results. Everyone wants quick results, but we need to be realistic. We just need to be realistic. And for the kind of pro-axis of resistance people, of course, they're going to pump this up and they're going to kind of celebrate this as a huge victory. And they will turn around and say, well, at least we launched some missiles. What are your Sunni Arab states doing? They're doing diddly squat. They're actually correct. They're not doing just diddling squat. They're collaborating and assisting the genocide. But for the reasoned Muslims who don't fall on either of these extremities, we have to understand that Israel is the aggressor in the region. Israel is the one that invaded another sovereign country less than 48 hours ago. It is Israel that, even after a full year of genociding an area that's 26 miles by 5 miles for 1 day. So just think about it. October the 7th, around about 800 to 1,200 Israelis were killed. Many of them were military reservists, off-duty soldiers, and so forth. For 1 day, they've done a genocide that's lasted a year. Where's the proportionality of that? This is a greater Israel land-grabbing project. Israel wants to drag the US into this regional war because it knows that if it does that, it can decimate Iran and its nuclear aspirations and give a warning sign to anyone else in the region that you dare step up to Israel. This is what you're going to get. So it's a slow game here, brothers and sisters. Yeah. Just like the march to Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem was long for Salahuddin and his predecessors, it will be long for this ummah as well, for this generation.
Thank you, Dilly, Jazakallah, for helping us out tonight. I know you weren't meant to come on today, so thank you for helping us, and see you soon, inshallah. All right, assalamu alaikum. All right, brothers and sisters, fantastic live stream again. Thank you for all your support. Over 3,000 people watching now. We started off with about 500. We're up to 3,000 an hour later. I'm going to wrap up now, but before I do wrap up, I do want to go through some of the comments, and especially people have paid to have their comments highlighted, so those will get priority. Saf says, behind the scene, countries such as Saudi Arabia and UAE may be supporting, encouraging Israel with this conflict with Iran. Absolutely. And as I said yesterday or day before yesterday on the live stream, this whole conflict, brothers and sisters, broke out because of Saudi Arabia being on the verge of normalization with Israel. We saw those interviews with MBS saying that he was going to basically normalize with Israel. And then October the 7th happened. And Ismail Haniyeh, in a speech in Qatar a few months later, actually listed that as one of the reasons why October the 7th happened. So I blame Saudi Arabia partially for the outbreak of this conflict. And it's also interesting to know, I mean, I personally think the more I read about it, the more I think, the more I've come to the conclusion that Iran and Hezbollah and all the other axis of resistance allies didn't actually know that October the 7th was going to happen, because Hamas probably knew that their communications had been compromised. And we've seen already they have been compromised. And therefore, we've seen that Hamas is, I mean, they still haven't got Sinwar over, Yahya Sinwar, like nearly a year after October the 7th. And Gaza is a much smaller area than Lebanon. So it looks like the intelligence, the counterintelligence capabilities of Hamas are actually much more effective than Hezbollah or even Iran. Let's get some more comments up, and especially the ones with the super chats, inshallah. Give me a second, brothers and sisters. MH says from Norway, I believe, we understand that the Muslim leaders and Muslim armies have been completely useless, but what about the Muslim people? Why are they not revolting in Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and such? Well, brothers and sisters, easier said than done. These are police states, and they have revolted, haven't they? They did so during the Arab Spring in many of these countries, and look what happened. They got battered, and then we end up with a worse situation, a worse dictatorship than we started off with. So I think the Arab Spring, actually, how it's played out, it's actually put a lot of people off this revolting kind of stuff. against rebelling against your leaders. I'm not saying that isn't still the solution, but yeah, our people in Jordan, which is basically a buffer state anyway, but half of Jordan is Palestinian. Egypt, they have such a powerful mukhabarat that has got their population, prisoner. There are 10 million Christians in Egypt that have no interest in confronting Israel. Half of the Muslims in Egypt are very secular minded. Turkey, we know that it's a secular state to a large extent, despite Erdogan's attempts to Islamize it. It's still effectively a militaristic, nationalistic, secular state. So I wouldn't be holding my breath. But as Dilly said before he left, Salahuddin Ayyubi cleaned up the Muslim world before he took on, the Crusaders. And I think ultimately we may need to do that ourselves. Any more super chats before I start wrapping up, inshallah? All right, no more super chats. So let's take a few comments. Bear with me, please, as I scroll through them. So latest breaking news, Iran ballistic missile hit the Dimona nuclear plant in the Negev. Wow. I mean, if that is true, then that is huge, because that literally means radiation spillage. I mean, please check that, brothers and sisters. I don't want to get too excited. I'll check it myself, perhaps after the stream is finished. But if that has happened, that could be a game changer. I hope that, M. Khan, your information is, well, I won't say I hope that it's accurate, because that would be a major disaster, and it could even affect the Palestinians if there is massive radiation spillage. But let's check that, inshallah. Amar says Greater Israel is a similar project as the Shia Crescent. Allah protects you from harm, says Musaiba, Jazakallah khair. Getting to the end of the comments. There's too many that has come in for me to actually get through, unfortunately. Another super chat from Arimov. The Torah says God of Abraham gave the land to the Jews. I mean, I think even as Muslims, Dilly's gone now, so he can't correct me. Obviously, I'm not an Islamic scholar, but I think we believe that the promised land was given to the Jews as Muslims, but not for all time, not for literally until Yom al-Qiyamah. That was a specific time period, I believe. Cine Ranta, no comment, but £10 may weigh heavy on your scales. Thank you very much for supporting our work. And that's it, brothers and sisters. No more super chats. Just let me check, because I don't like, after having put out a challenge to you, to come out with the super chats and then guaranteeing that I will profile your questions if you do. I don't want to miss any. So just give me 30 seconds while I scroll back. Yeah, I can't see any more, brothers and sisters. Forgive me if you have done a super chat and I've missed it. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Okay, brothers and sisters, so inshallah, we're praying that Robert can get on his flight tomorrow and get back for a well-earned rest, bit of recuperation, reconnect with his wife and his children after a dangerous, I would say, 1 week in Lebanon. And I'm not sure whether we're going to keep doing the lives. I think we definitely will if the news is as hot as it has been over the past 3 days. I can't guarantee that Robert's going to be on tomorrow, though. But, we'll maybe interrupt his holiday because he is back for a bit of an R&R. But if the news is very hot, I think Robert will agree to come back on, perhaps in the evenings, for a live or two. And Imam M said, I appreciate you. I actually had a bit of a quarrel with Imam over Egypt and Israel. So I appreciate that he didn't take it personally, what I said. And he is my brother in Islam, of course. Okay, that's it, brothers and sisters. I'm going to wrap up now. 3,000 people still watching, but I'm going to have to call it a day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.